Thank you. So the course title that we are about to do is 17th and 18th century English literature. Keep that in mind. Sometimes we say just 17th and 18th century literature, but it's not that. It's about English literature, stuff written in England and Ireland. Okay, so you can see the course code. So before we move deeper into the topics, the writers, I would like to give you an overview of what happened, of what took place in the society, in the politics, among people, what they thought, how they felt, because these are the things which impacted their writing, right? This is so for all the eras. Isn't that so? Right. So some of the major movements, I hope you know that this was the late Elizabethan era, the 17th century, and then a new monarch began, a new king appeared. So there was huge turmoils at places, okay? Wars took place, but those were civil wars, okay? No fightings. So people revolted against some points of view of the parliament, of the religious leaders, but this was done in a civil manner, right? So the civil war was between the king and the parliament. I mentioned it earlier. There was a religious conflict. You must have studied George Herbert, the poems of George Herbert. No? He is a metaphysical poet. So we study George Herbert's poems along with Andrew Marvell's. You know this name, right? So Andrew Marvell wrote a little differently. George Herbert was also a metaphysical poet. He wrote in a more religious tone, right? So in his poems, we see the religious conflict, okay? Now there were a few other things going on in the society. For example, the growth in science took place. People started to question reality. They started to move towards the thoughts related to metaphysics, death, love, immortality, religion, etc., right? Some philosophical ideologies sprouted, okay? There were some major philosophers, philosophical thoughts, which we learn about. The theaters were shut because there was a conflict between religion and normal people, right? So theaters were shut because the extremists thought theaters or dramas would influence people negatively, okay, would inspire them to revolt more. So that's one thing. Then it led to restoration. Things changed. So this is also known as a time of enlightenment. Okay, we are all familiar with the word enlightenment, right? Growth of knowledge, growth of science, moving from frigidity to movements, right? To fluidity, right? So we talked about the major movements, some historical influences. Keep these in mind when we study the poems or the novels. Some major genres. We talked about a few: metaphysical poetry, novels, okay, talking about philosophy, religion, emotional questionings were there in the writings. Pastoral poetry was another genre of writing during this period. The writers in pastoral poetry, are you familiar with pastoral poetry? No? So they celebrated the rural life. They did not like the urban lifestyle, okay? They celebrated nature, they celebrated remoteness from the urbanness, okay? So an idealizing of the countryside is present in pastoral poetry. Also, there were some epic poems, religious prose as well, political prose, and dramas. Now, moving on to some prominent authors and poets. We already know about Andrew Marvell. There's John Milton, who is a really prominent poet. We will study his Paradise Lost, exactly. Did you do book 1? Paradise Lost, book 1, have you studied that before? No? Okay, so we are going to do that, but not in the midterm. Then we have George Herbert, we have essayists like Bacon, Francis Bacon, exactly. And we have novelists or satirists like Jonathan Swift. He is known as the father of satire, okay? So basically he is known to have invented satire. And we have Robinson Crusoe, all right? So we also have mock epic, which is sort of a satire. It's a heroic poem, but unlike the regular epic poems, okay? So note down the things. And please do remember to clarify the confusions later on, okay? Right. So we have an overview of the era, of the period, okay? Now we know what influenced the writers. So from the things we are going to do for the midterm, this is one. Sonnet 55 by William Shakespeare. Now, how is this sonnet different from the other sonnets he wrote? We all know what sonnet is, do we? A poem consisting 14 lines, exactly. Okay, that is what is known as a sonnet. So this one is different because of its unusually optimistic tone. Okay, so we will see that the poet shows a different sort of optimism, hopefulness. Also, he is more confident in this poem than he was in his other sonnets. Okay, you will see that in a while. We will look at the first stanza. The opening line is really strong. It states what he feels, why he feels so strongly and directly. Okay, so he makes stronger claims about poetry being immortal, or making or having the power to make someone immortal. Okay, so this covers the last point, advocates for the power of poetry. Moving on, this is the first stanza, the first 4 lines. What do we call these stanzas? These stanzas in sonnets, what do we call them? Does anybody know or remember? You told me you studied the sonnets before, right? You must have studied the structure of the poems.
Ma'am, all lines are like
The first 4 lines, yes.
2 lines, 3 lines.
Okay, we will keep that for later then. I am going to put this into the quiz I'm going to give you. Right, so let's read. The first line. Pay attention to the meanings, symbolism, figures of speech. All right? The writer's use of words. Okay? Not marble, nor the gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. What do we understand from here? Do we get the powerfulness? Not marble nor gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. So there should be a stress when we read the word powerful. Okay? Not marble nor gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. So here he is straightforward, he is direct, he is expressing his strong belief that a rhyme can be so powerful that it can make someone immortal, which gilded monuments made of stones cannot do. Gilded monuments, this is a symbol of longevity, of strength. Time, nature decays such monuments, right? But in case of the written words of the poet, it's not so. Time cannot kill this, right? Or decay it, or destroy it. But you shall shine more bright in these contents meaning these words or these lines. More bright than unswept stone besmeared with sluttish time. So sluttish means wanton, debauched, not strong in character, ever changing. Okay? So this is an attribute we often give to human beings. The poet gives it to time, which is an abstract matter, right? An abstract concept. Now we will discuss the meanings later on. At first, can you identify the figurative device used in the first line, the very first one? The figurative devices, we know about similes, hyperbole, personification, metaphors, alliteration, onomatopoeia, right? So is there one used in the first line? But you need to be sure. Any figurative device used in the first line? Okay, let me help you with that then. So here we have an alliteration. Do we all know what alliteration means? The repetition of the initial sounds. We have here the sound ma repeated, right? Not marble, nor the gilded monuments. The sound ma gets repeated. And this figure of speech, alliteration, it creates a rhythmic pattern. It makes the writing more memorable for the readers. Okay? Alliteration, the rhythm of the sound. No, it's not necessary that they are placed close by. It's not necessary. Okay? They are in the same line. That's what matters. Okay? Or in the same sentence in case of prose. Okay? Now, are there any more? What about sluttish time? Is there any figurative device used in here? Yes, hyperbole is used in this stanza. It is hyperbolic in some sense, exactly. The writer is exaggerating. But to be more precise, what exactly has been used in here? Or there is a more closer use of another figurative device, more stronger use of it. I just mentioned it a while ago. Sluttish time, yes. No. There's no repeated sounds. In alliteration, the initial sound, the sound in the beginning of the words get repeated, okay? But that's not the case in here. All right, so in here we can see the use of personification. I just mentioned a while ago the meaning of sluttish is wanton or debauched or not being trustworthy. These are attributes of human beings. And in personification, we compare objects or ideas or feelings to human beings. Exactly. So that is what is being done in here. An attribute which is used usually for humans is compared to time, which is an abstract concept, right? So personification. You can note all these down because you see in the exam, perhaps I might ask you to identify the figurative devices and explain how or why the writer has used it, or what impact is it having on the reader. All right? Okay, so we heard one of you mentioning hyperbole. There's plenty of use of that. Hyperbole, exaggeration. The writer clearly exaggerates a lot in here, right? Also, there's the use of contrast, which is another poetic device, contrast. What does he contrast between? What are the two things he is comparing? The physical or worldly nature of things, the gilded monuments made of stone, and immortality. Okay? So the physical world and the outer world. That's the contrast. Okay? Right, so I would like you to have some time to try and analyze this, the stanza. Make notes of your own. Try to figure out what the words mean. Also, what it means to you personally. Because at first we need to be clear about that, the meanings ourselves. Only then we will be able to explain it clearly, right? So take a few minutes to do that. We shall proceed to the next part in a while.